250 million years ago, a Gorgonopsian lowered its head to drink, only to be ambushed without warning. Freshwater was never a peaceful place in that era. Hidden beneath the muddy surface was a temnospondyl amphibian that was fully adapted to life underwater. However, the starving animal had chosen the wrong target. The Gorgonopsian was one of the most vicious apex predators on land at the time, and it far outclassed the amphibian in both speed and bite force. The amphibian had gone without food for an unknown length of time. Over millions of years, this body of water had sustained countless creatures. At its height, 7 or 8 large amphibians had lived there. Now, only this solitary individual remained, and it appeared unlikely to survive much longer. Earth's environment had deteriorated to an extreme. The rainy season should have arrived long ago, yet there was not a single cloud in the sky. A severe drought swept across the supercontinent Pangaea, leaving untold numbers of animals to die of thirst or starvation on the cracked ground. The most devastating mass extinction in Earth's history was already counting down. A lake that had once stretched beyond the horizon had shrunk into a small pool of muddy water. Beside it, an inconspicuous little animal called Diictodon was still busily at work. Unlike the enormous creatures above, Diictodon spent most of its life inside a burrow, digging tunnels and feeding on underground roots and stems. Life was becoming increasingly difficult for the amphibian at the bottom of the pool. It had not caught anything for a long time and could do little more than remain in the treacherous mud, barely clinging to life. The Gorgonopsian still remembered the earlier ambush. It frequently prowled around the water's edge, waiting for the amphibian to die so that it could climb down and eat it. Although reduced to little more than skin and bone, the amphibian had no intention of surrendering without a fight. As the drought continued to torment every living creature, a series of rhythmic tremors suddenly shook the ground. A herd of enormous Scutosaurus appeared on the horizon. Their highly developed sense of smell had allowed them to detect water from several kilometers away. The herd had been traveling continuously for months, following any sign of water or food. This was the first water source they had encountered in a month, and they gathered around it to drink. The sparse, drought-resistant plants along their route also supplied moisture and energy. Although the teeth of Scutosaurus could not grind this tough vegetation efficiently, the animals had another solution. Their stomachs contained many smooth stones. As the stomach contracted, these gastroliths crushed the fibrous plants they had swallowed. Digestive fluids could then extract every available nutrient from the pulverized material. The arrival of the giants astonished the Diictodon sheltering in their burrows, but the small animals did not dare to come out. The Gorgonopsian was still lurking nearby. Even so, the predator had already lost much of its former power. It might have risked attacking a lone Scutosaurus, but it would not approach an entire herd of full-grown adults. All it could do was wait at the edge and hope for scraps. The wait did not last long. There were so many Scutosaurus that they drained the shallow pool within a few days. Once they had finished drinking, the herd resumed its journey toward the next place where water might still be found. By then, these animals had grown accustomed to a life of constant wandering. The exhausted giants trudging across the wasteland were a living reflection of Pangaea's brutal environment. Dinosaurs had not yet taken the stage, but the most catastrophic mass extinction in Earth's history was about to begin. This disaster would interrupt a course of evolution that had continued for hundreds of millions of years. Countless plants and animals were already on the verge of extinction. Where could they go, and which of them could endure such an apocalyptic crisis? Scutosaurus could migrate in search of water, but for animals unable to travel long distances, the drought was a death sentence. With fewer and fewer animals left to hunt, the desperate Gorgonopsian turned its attention to the Diictodon inside their burrows. Chasing them underground was futile. Their tunnels were deep, winding, and extensive, and even after searching for a long time, the predator could not find a single one. Just as it was about to give up, the Gorgonopsian suddenly realized that the water hole had dried out. Yet the amphibian's body was nowhere to be seen. Its nose revealed that something alive was hidden beneath the hard layer of mud. It immediately began digging and soon found what it was looking for. The amphibian had spent its entire life in water, but it possessed a remarkable way of surviving the dry season. Before the last of the water disappeared, it burrowed deep into the wet mud. Mucus secreted by its body bound the surrounding mud into a protective cocoon, allowing the animal to enter a dormant state resembling death. If it could survive until the next rain, it would revive when water returned. This time, however, the rain did not arrive first. The starving Gorgonopsian did. The dormant amphibian became a desperately needed meal, but how many more meals like this could possibly remain? Food on land was already disappearing, and before long, the climate collapsed completely. Ferocious winds swept vast clouds of sand across the land, blotting out the sky. Rain became impossible, and even the sun was hidden from view. The entire planet entered an apocalyptic state as countless lives came to an end. The Gorgonopsians, once dominant predators on land, were among the first to succumb. With the food web broken, even the most formidable hunters had nothing left to eat. One after another, They collapsed on the parched earth and were slowly buried beneath the sand. In the few million years following the catastrophe, more than 90% of Earth's species disappeared. Both land and sea became nearly lifeless wastelands. It was the worst mass extinction since life first appeared on Earth. Yet the flame of life was never completely extinguished. Small and unremarkable Dictodons survived because they could tolerate drought, hide in underground burrows, and gnaw on tough, dried roots. They endured the catastrophe against all odds. Once the disaster had passed, none of the former giants remained to suppress them. Their descendants began to evolve rapidly and grow larger, and the curtain was about to rise on a new age of giants. If you also enjoy this kind of fascinating popular science content, visit the Domain Select app. It features many high-quality science creators who can guide you through even more intriguing discoveries.